And for that initiative, the BEP would be the mechanism, and state funding would be the hammer.
It's a combination of the three. That's exactly right. So, the BEP says what needs to be taught.
Mm-hmm.
What needs to be provided for education in our state. Ideally, when we have a funding formula, that will provide the adequate resources. Based on the one that we've developed, it provides adequate resources to be able to provide the education described in the BEP.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Uniform Chart of Accounts provides the window into where the money is being invested. And that combination of those three, I think, is going to be ideal for policymakers, local leaders, including education leaders and community leaders, and taxpayers and parents as well.
Does that start to encroach on that line between what and how that you just talked about earlier?
No, because it's not dictating where people invest their money. It's just providing a window into where people are investing their money. And there may be a point at which if it appears that a district is, this is just hypothetical, but there may be a point 3 or 5 years down the road where it appears that a district is has an area in the Uniform Chart of Accounts that they're investing in ways that are taking away from student services more broadly.
Mm-hmm.
that the state may say, you can keep making that investment, but you can't use state resources to do it. But I don't think that it's the idea is not to direct communities how to use their local funding. It's just to provide a tool
mm-hmm.
for local leaders to be able to know what makes sense. Just as an example, when we developed our funding formula, we used the National Center for Education Statistics database on school finances across the country and compared what we spend in Rhode Island to what's spent regionally and what is spent nationally,
mm-hmm.
down to a really detailed level, and it was really helpful. And there were a lot of things that I think that many of us thought were the case because they're kind of commonly thought of as being a certain way that we actually found was different. So, for example, I think a lot of people think that because we have 36 districts and only a little less than 150,000 students, that we must spend a lot of money on administration, but we don't. We actually, relative to other places, have very low costs in administration. And then when you look at things like student-teacher ratio, one of the things that we found was that we actually have really low student-teacher ratios at the secondary school level, but higher at the elementary school level than other places do. And what does that mean for us? I don't know. It's a policy decision, though. And I think without that information, it's just a default that this is how we've always done things. But with the power of that information, then it becomes a policy decision. Is that the best choice? Is that the way that we want to invest our money? Is that getting us the result that we need? So that's what, for me, the data does, is it gives you the information to be able to make the best decision.
And based on that data, what's your thoughts on the regionalization, decrease in the school districts? And is that something you support or more or less ambivalent as far as whether communities want to do it? Or
Yeah, we have put into our strategic agenda, our 5th priority is investing our resources wisely.
Mm-hmm.
And in that, first is that we need a funding formula in our state.
Mm-hmm.
But also, we want to make sure that we are doing everything we can as a state to be as efficient as we can with taxpayer dollars, so that we're making the investments in places where they're going to make the biggest difference.
mm-hmm.
And so we have a statewide contract for food service, for example, that is saving a lot of money. We have a statewide contract for transportation, and some districts are opting in and others aren't. But for those that are opting in, the more people that opt in, actually, the greater savings we'll see as a state. So we're really focusing more on shared services and things like that than than necessarily having as a goal that we're going to reduce the number of districts. We haven't made a statement like that, and we don't intend to.
Mm-hmm.
But when there are communities that are interested in consolidating and interested in the benefits that consolidation could bring to them, like the Aquidneck Island effort that's going on that everybody knows about, we've provided a ton of support to that, providing data, providing, helping them to run different numbers to see, what they could save and where they would save it and things like that, and would do that for any community that was interested.
I think that was the Aquidneck Island one where you made a great comment about regionalization is supposed to save money. So why would we give you more money to regionalize? That's just stuck out my mind. Just one more question so you can get on with your busy evening schedule. Vouchers, are they on your radar as either a next step or a plan B if things don't go well? What's your perspective? I mean, it's sort of a buzzword at this point, vouchers, but it's a school choice, perhaps involving even private schools and just giving money to students to go where they want to go.
Yeah, right now my focus is on improving the public school system in the state of Rhode Island, and I am a big supporter of school choice, and so I think that anything that we can do within our state to give parents flexibility, I would support, and even to the extent that meant from district to district and things like that. But that's just a philosophical stance. Where we are in terms of what we said we want to do in our agenda is make sure that we have high quality public charter school options for families. And we have 13 charter schools in our state right now. Some are doing pretty well, okay. Others are struggling. And my commitment is to make sure that we don't have any charter schools that aren't doing well, and that we increase the number that are really knocking the ball out of the park, because that's the goal, to provide models for what our public school system should look like.
Okay. Well, that answered all my questions and then some. Probably taken up more than my allotted time too.
No,
so
no problem.
It was very good to meet you.
Nice to meet you
Thank
too.
For